Welcome, everyone. I'm Kimberly Boschman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive Podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at your forecast for June 2021. So what I'm going to do is, first and foremost, I'm going to break down the energies and the numerology for the collective that could come up and surface in June. And then I'm going to dive deeper into your personal life path number. So before we get started, I just want to mention that this is, of course, a general reading. If you would like a personalized reading, please book some time with me. My information is in the description box below. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. So the month of June collectively is a universal 11-2 energy. So this is going to be a time for pronounced intuitive insights and strengthening of intuitive and psychic abilities. So you may feel the pull this month to really tune into your own inner compass for guidance. Dreams can be especially vivid and intense during this cycle, so pay close attention to what comes up for you in your dreamscapes. And that can also be in daydreams. So they may hold valuable messages for you. And so it's very beneficial for you to spend some time with those dreams. And again, even your daydreams, if you journal about them, kind of feel into them and see what messages they may hold for you. If you are struggling with deciphering that message and you'd like some assistance, I do offer dream interpretation. So just book some time with me and let's explore further. So this month we may find collectively that our emotions are particularly heightened during this cycle. So this isn't necessarily a good or a bad thing. It just simply is a reminder that we are emotional beings. And if something's coming in strongly for us this month, happy or sad, what we feel may be good or bad emotionally, then it's because it's asking to be truly felt and experienced. So avoidance will not work here, and this will give you an opportunity to remember that through the emotions that are meant to be felt, that whole range of emotions, they are not meant to control us or completely derail us, but they are meant to be felt and worked through and wisdom pulled from them, right? From that experience. So if you feel hyper emotional this month, work on ways to feel the emotion without losing yourself within it or without staying sort of trapped within it, if that makes sense. Give yourself the time and the space and the grace to be able to feel what comes up for you, but don't get trapped there. Find your center and then continue to find your way back to it when things begin to feel a little too intense, okay? Not saying that if things get intense, you should fall into avoidance mode, because sometimes it's going to feel intense. But if you feel like you start to get trapped within your emotions or your emotions become more in control of the situation, then that's a time that's your indicator to come back to your center, to find your balance. So you may feel a tremendous amount of joy and happiness this month. And if so, fully immerse yourself within that rather than sort of shaming yourself for feeling so good. Sometimes we have a tendency to do that. You do deserve to experience the joys in life. It doesn't always need to be about lessons, soul growth, and work. So there's plenty of beautiful soul growth to be had through enjoyment and bliss. This month, if an emotion surfaces for you, allow yourself the space, the time to feel through it without shame or judgment. Too often, we and society tend to shame those who give themselves the opportunity to feel an emotion or express an emotion. So I think this month it's going to come in pretty strongly. Those emotions that need to be felt and dealt with. And even those emotions that we don't allow ourselves to feel when it comes to happiness, joy, celebration, gratitude, whatever the case may be. So if there's an emotion that you have been tucking under the rug or not allowing yourself to fully experience, whether it's good or bad. Not that there are necessarily bad emotions, but you know what I'm saying. This is going to be a month where I think we're going to have an opportunity to really feel into them and, again, move through them in a way where we're not in avoidance. This is also going to be a month for decisive action. So this can feel a little bit uncomfortable if you're someone who is often indecisive. So sudden events may require very distinctive, decisive action on your part. So this is going to be a time to trust yourself and trust your inner guidance. Pay attention to your mindset and the attitudes around circumstances that surface for you, and try to determine how a shift within those perspectives could produce for you a more desirable result in the future with those decisions that you make today. So if you're capable of channeling those energies into something more positive and worthwhile, then you can really accomplish more now in this 11-2 cycle than in any other cycle that we experience. Master energy, which 11-2 is master level energy, equals master accomplishments if we work with the energy. So this month, when things come up for you, the thing to remember is, am I avoiding this for some reason? And if I am, why am I avoiding it? And that can, again, be about emotions, difficult conversations, decisions that need to be made, whatever comes up for you. If you find yourself in avoidance mode, then that is a big indicator for you that you need to pause and find ways to face it head on, deal with it, and make those important decisions, those elevated decisions that are going to help promote something much more beneficial for you in the future and in the days to come, in the days, the months, the weeks, and years to come. So this is a big month. This is a big energy. And so again, it's always what we choose to do with it, but I anticipate that we'll be feeling some master level energy surface this month, and we'll have some opportunities to really master those energies in the way that we are capable of doing so in this time, at this time. So, all right, so let's go ahead and get into your particular life path number. Life path number 4s. Okay, so I myself am also a life path number 4, so we are in this together. Okay, so I pulled an animal spirit card for us, and we got Sandpiper Spirit. And what's so funny about this is, so 4 energy can be, part of the core of this energy is about resiliency, dedication, practicality, creating in the physical what you want to see from your intuition. Like, it does have a lot to do with when you're in balance, following your inner guidance, being very intuitive, being very connected to nature and Mother Earth and all of those very feminine energies. But there's also a very masculine energetic side to the 4 energy, which can be very driven and can be very practical and logical. And sometimes we can get so caught up in that energy that we overwork ourselves. We become way in our heads. 4s can sometimes have a lot of anxiety because there's a lot of desire for control over the situation. And as we learn very quickly, there's not a lot that we actually do have control over other than our own selves. And also patience is a really big, life lesson throughout this journey for a 4. So what's funny is in my personal meditations, a lot has been coming in around joy, play, not taking things so seriously, chilling the F out, just sort of, stepping more into that feminine side. And it's funny because we got Sandpiper Spirit for our animal spirit message this month, and the entire message for Sandpiper is be playful. So no doubt we are definitely being asked to tap into that inner child within, try to not to see things or take things so seriously. Yes, I would be lying if I didn't say that 4 energy can be challenging. We saw that in 2020. 2020 was a 4 year collectively. When you have a 4 personal year, it can be challenging because it rips away those foundations that aren't working to build something sustainable, to build some kind of legacy, to build something that's in truth and integrity. And that whole process of death and rebirth is never easy. And so, if you're a 4 and you find yourself really sort of in the practical, a workaholic or really dedicated to, something, and just feel overwhelmed by that at times, just know that that's such a big part of this 4 energy. But really, the goal is to find the balance. Definitely find that balance between that feminine and that masculine energy from within. And welcome the stillness, welcome the receptivity, welcome the opportunity for joy and to play and to understand that we're in a partnership in this journey with the universe, with a higher consciousness, and we do not have full control. So it's okay to be playful, to let your guard down, to throw caution to the wind, to, take those risks. And so I feel like for us this month, we're probably going to be asked to do that. And the more that we can do that, the more that we can tap into that childlike energy and see things from that innocence as opposed to from that sense of drive or that sense of striving, I think that this month will be a lot easier. And I think that it'll open up a lot more of our own creativity and our own opportunity to create something that we are actually passionate about, that we really love and that we really enjoy, as opposed to doing something out of obligation or out of the sense of obligation to do something for the, as opposed, rather than doing something out of the sense of obligation, doing something out of the sense of purpose and passion and joy. That's the big thing. Like if you are continuously showing up to something that does not bring you joy, then it's time for a reevaluation. So Sandpiper is saying to us, be playful, find your joy, let that child out from within and let it play. So just keep that in mind as we move through the month. Okay, so I broke June down into 4 weeks. The first week I can definitely see where there's this energy of really being caught up in your head and really creating some deep and dark stories within your head. And it's interesting because I feel like this is going to be around relationships, around family relationships, lack of nurturing or over nurturing, like sort of like that suffocating nurturing, right? So it's kind of like, it's interesting. It's almost like this could come into play around some kind of a significant relationship for you where you don't have the full story. And so you're creating the story within your head. And that's creating the anxiety and the stress and the discord. So really what I'm hearing is get out of your head, take a closer look at what's actually happening within the situation. And if you don't have the full story just yet, recognize that you are not meant to. That is something that you cannot control. And when you try to control it, then you're in turn trying to control the other person. And so let things evolve the way that they're meant to evolve at this time, and work with what you have been given around the situation. Work with what you know and allow the rest to unfold, right? Like follow the breadcrumbs, but stop the projection, stop like that internal projector that's going off, that's creating stories that really don't exist, okay? Because that's going to take you into a dark rabbit hole that you're going to have a hard time digging out of. So really pay close attention to what is being brought up because of what you are creating within your mind, okay, around this situation, as opposed to like what could really be happening. And I think that we all see that at some points within our lives, where we think we know the full story, but then when we actually find out what happened or what's happening, we're kind of like shocked, like, oh, I didn't realize that was what was happening on the other end because this is how I saw it or how I perceived it. So I just get this sense like the first week, pay attention to your mindset, pay attention to the stories that you're creating within your own mind, especially when it comes to relationships. And that doesn't just have to be romantic relationships, that can be like colleagues, that sort of thing as well. Or if you're a manager, This can be a really good opportunity for you to have a conversation and open the lines of communication with your employees, because again, it could be like you're creating stories within your head that aren't really valid or aren't really fair to that employee or that person. And so a conversation can go a long ways. Then we move into the second week, and it's so interesting because I'm definitely seeing that child, like joyful kind of playtime energy coming in. Well, I'm seeing kind of like this push and pull energy. Like you have the choice, like you can either keep looking at the world as like this dark and heavy place where people suck and, things are just difficult and you're always being tested and challenged. Or you can kind of like switch the energy and really take a closer look at like the joys in life, the things that make you happy, the things that light you up, the things that you want to invest your energy in to see grow, right? So it's like you really have an opportunity this second week to shift your focus. You can choose to continue to look at things or fall into the path of looking at things from a like more miserable energy of everything sucks, like the world is out to get me, like life is hard, earth is hard. I mean, I've said those words myself, like earth is hard, but it is, it's challenging, but that's why we came here, is to overcome those challenges. But that doesn't mean that we can't experience the joy along the way or that we can't create joyful moments for ourselves. And so I think this second week of June, we're going to have an opportunity to decide how we want to look at the glass, half empty or half full. And do we want to fill up the glass or do we want to empty the glass? You know what I mean? Like we have that choice. We do have control over that. And again, it can be as simple as like a mindset, but I do feel like we're going to have a choice to what we want to create within our lives too. Like, do we want to create this sort of miserable existence where we continue to show up to things that just suck or, are sucking our energy, like a career or a job that just is not fulfilling us? Or do we want to create something that really brings our passion alive, brings our joy alive? Taking action on something that actually feels aligned with purpose, even if other people don't understand it. So I do get this call the second week, immerse yourself in nature, around children, around animals, whatever it is that will allow you to see that sort of unconditional love and unconditional sort of like joy, whatever allows you to see that and be a part of that. Find that and immerse yourself in it. Again, even if you have to create it for yourself. So definitely seeing a choice that second week and how you want to sort of look at things and like what lens you want to see your world through. Not to say that things aren't challenging or can't be challenging. I think that as fours, we know that things can be challenging. But we also are very resilient and have ways to overcome those challenges. The key is to figure out how to do that from a space of gratitude and joy, where we understand that not everything is meant to be difficult or challenging, right? And it's up to us to find those things that really light us up. Then in that third week, this is interesting because I'm actually seeing this really powerful light energy of like inspiration and motivation coming in. And if you are able to take steps from that inspiration, and remember, this inspiration may be a 180 from what you're used to, and it may be uncomfortable because you're used to being more practical, but this is asking you to follow your intuition. This is asking you to follow something abstract that you can't, explain away with logic. So if you can step into that powerful energy, into that fiery energy of, inspiration and taking that lead from that inner compass, then I think you're going to find some really powerful security and stability through that process. Whereas if you were to disregard this energy and continue to say, you know what, I really want to do this, but I feel obligated to do this. So I'm going to do what I feel obligated to do. That could bring you where you feel secure, but I feel like it's going to be like a false sense of security. So this is going to be a time for you to really take a closer look at what brings you joy and what doesn't. And what do you want to invest your time and energy into? The things that bring you joy or the things that don't? And you get to decide. So it might not be an easy decision. Nobody's saying that it necessarily will be, but you have to be the one to decide that. And then once you decide that, then follow through with that, right? So I do feel like, especially with this being like a 11-2 cycle collectively, I feel like we're going to have an opportunity to make a really big, bold decision that only we can make. And if we do it from a place of inspiration and intuition, then it's going to build a foundation that will stand the test of time. It is going to bring us some kind of security and stability. So that's not a false sense of security. So really pay attention to what comes in for you through this play, through this creative joy, right? What sparks that imagination within you, and how far are you willing to allow your imagination to take you? Because if you close that off, then you're going to stay where you're at. And as far as like, you're not going to progress where you want to progress to. You have to allow the creativity and you have to allow the imagination in, because that's part of our job, is to create something within the physical that will stand the test of time, that will build sort of a legacy, right? And as we move into that last week of the month, it's interesting because I'm really seeing like the energy supporting us, pulling from our wisdom, pulling from our passion, pulling from, that sort of fatherly energy of building a legacy, of being a leader, of being a teacher in some way, and really feeling empowered by that, right? Like no longer feeling like I have to keep showing up to whatever I've been showing up to out of obligation. I can step up to and step into what empowers me, what drives me, but makes me feel really, really good, right? I think sometimes especially with the more practical life path numbers, like 4, 8, especially 4, 8, 1s, I think sometimes like we can feel driven, but driven to sort of succeed in a way that is accepted by society. Whereas that's not always what will fulfill us. So we need to kind of change the way we look at success and change the way we look at sort of how we've been showing up and what's acceptable. And if what we want to do isn't necessarily acceptable by others, that's okay. If it drives us, if it fuels our passion and our creativity, then we are meant to explore that, right? Because if we build a foundation on anything else, that foundation will crumble and we'll be back doing it again. And we'll be right back where we started to do those steps again. So I just think this month we are really being asked to play, be creative, find that inner spark, and then build from that spark, right? Use the wisdom, use the knowledge, and build from that internal spark, not from what others are telling us we should do or what is acceptable from society, right? Like sometimes you have to step beyond those norms. Sometimes you have to step beyond those comfort zones to create something bigger and better. So I really get that, and that's not going to come from a space of anything other than joy, because you're not going to know that you're creating something that you love if it's coming from anywhere other than a space of joy, right? So you have to first start with the playtime, start with the creation, start with the joy, and then build from there. If you're building off from a platform of anger, dismay, discord, resentment, then that's what you're building more of, right? So I think this month it's really a call to pay attention to the building blocks, pay attention to where you're taking life a little bit too serious, and make the time to play. Make the time to find your joy and do more of that. And don't shame yourself for taking the time to drop into that more feminine energy, because that's part of it. That is so part of the 4 energy, is really stepping into that inner world. So, and a lot of times you can't tap into that unless you're doing it from a space of play and joy and creation and creativity. So powerful month for us all, which isn't it always, but but yeah, I think the more that we can play this month and just find enjoyment in our daily tasks. And if we're not finding joy in those tasks, then find a way to shift the energy, find a way to do something different. Figure out what it is that will bring you the joy, and then build your foundation from that space. Okay? So, happy June, everyone. Enjoy it, and I will see you all again soon. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.